I want to welcome everybody again to I think our fifth brown bag discussion, wellness discussion. So thank you very much for coming. Today we have the pleasure of having Molly Jennings come and talk about how we can best utilize the farm fresh foods that are available this time of year. And what I know about Molly is that she's responsible, or partially responsible, for some of the great food that's being prepared over at the Sunnyside Hospital cafeteria. If you've ever been over there, it's really good food. And she is the lead of the Healthy Picks program. And she's what I think is called a retail dietitian. So, help me welcome Molly in giving us this really nice presentation.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about growing our farm fresh food and a little bit about healthy relationships with food. So I'm going to start with who I am, a little bit about what I do and what we do in our cafeteria. I'm going to go over what the Healthy Picks program is and a healthy plate overview, or review, probably. Then the recipe is going to be kind of throughout the presentation. It's called One Bowl to Rule Them All. Talk about normal eating and different types of eaters or eating tendencies. So about me, I'm a clinical dietitian at Sunnyside Medical Center and also the Healthy Picks specialist. I started doing the food service work. I have a strong passion for food and working with vendors and reading ingredient lists and making sure that what we serve is of high quality. For example, there are dehydrated potatoes with hydrogenated oils in them and a bunch of preservatives and silicon dioxide, or there's dehydrated potatoes that are just potatoes, or there's whole potatoes that we chop and mash and blend. So those kind of things I look at and find out what our best option is. So I also post our nutrition facts, but the best I can. Most of them are on our food and nutrition website. And I also post the Healthy Pick logo for our recipes that meet the Healthy Picks criteria. We are not the food police. We like to provide a healthy work environment. So we have donuts still in our cafeteria. Personal story, I don't like donuts. They hurt my stomach. They're just not really satisfying. But after working in the cafeteria for a couple months, I was like, yeah, I'm going to have a donut. And then the next month, I'm like, I'm going to have another donut. And every time I eat one, I'm just like, oh, my stomach! So it breaks you down just having that food in your environment. So we strive to flood your environment with healthy food, and that's then what you'll eat, and you'll be health promoting. So you may have heard, or maybe not, the West Side Hospital. I've worked with my team to help open up that cafeteria with no soda. So there's no regular soda, and there is no diet soda.
Yay!
So it's kind of controversial in a sense, but we don't really need it. There's a lot of research against soda. Sugar-sweetened soda or sugar-sweetened beverages are the only food item that we consume that is directly linked with obesity, that clear direct link. So we just don't really need it. And so we don't really have any sugar-sweetened beverages over there at all. There are still 2 diet choices. So this is the direction we're going, and it's really, really exciting. Any questions about that? So this is the healthy eating plate. The USDA one is here, but I kind of like the Harvard one. It focuses on whole grains, healthy protein, fruits, and vegetables. This model replaces the food pyramid. The Harvard plate also includes healthy oils and water. Has everyone seen this before? No? Has anyone heard of the My Plate? The USDA one? This one? So just a little reminder that we want all of our meals to be well-rounded. We want a bunch of different textures and colors on our plate. And that's the most health-promoting direction we can take at this moment. So Healthy Picks. Healthy Picks just got a huge makeover. The final criteria were just approved in June. Has anyone heard of Healthy Picks? Who has not heard of Healthy Picks? Okay, that's about half hour.
I'm sorry.
So, that's fine.
Stop it, Mandy.
Yeah. Dave made me do it.
So the idea of a Healthy Picks is you'll be able to walk around any food location on a Kaiser premises, see this Healthy Pick logo, and be confident that that item is promoting your health. And that takes out the piece of you having to be a food investigator in our cafeterias, in our food zones, since we have to do that, or could be doing that in our home lives. So what's new about the Healthy Picks makeover is the two logos. There's a lot of research out now about menu labeling and marketing, and they're finding that the stoplight approach is the most beneficial for customers. So having the green is go, and then a yellow logo for sometimes foods, and then the red logo for there's nothing really redeeming about this food item. So we're just having a no label on those. So the best criteria, it focuses on very low saturated fat content, containing at least 51% whole grains. I pushed for the whole grain, but it didn't win. Lean protein, plus nuts. Nuts count. They're not disregarded for their high fat content. Fresh fruits and vegetables, low fat dairy items, reduced fat cheese, and lower sodium. So a snack can't be more than 200 milligrams sodium, and entree plate can't be more than 600 milligrams sodium.
Are these logos that you have at the Westside Medical Center on the entrees and stuff like that?
Yes, or they will be. And this is more for retail and not as much patient food.
What happened to the projector?
I don't know.
That was me this time.
Did it unplug?
I just turned it up.
Oh, is that what it was?
Carrie.
Oh, Carrie. Gee.
So the next one, the good criteria, they're just a little bit more lenient. So a plate can have up to 800 milligrams sodium. There's more meats included, like a lean pork or even a lean beef. What else? The product has to contain whole grains if it's a grain product, and the source of the saturated fat doesn't necessarily have to be 10% of the calories for that meal, but the source of fat does have to be from healthy oil.
Oh, here it comes.
Very
Okay.
light. It's growing.
So what do you guys think? Would you be more inclined to buy an item in the cafeteria if it were labeled with this?
Yes.
Yay! Good to hear. Also, the other piece is pricing. So we're kind of there, but anything that's going to be labeled with any Healthy Pick logo is going to be priced cheaper than things that are not, as an extra incentive.
Nice.
So now we'll start with the wonderful To Rule Them All. This debuted in our cafeteria on RD Day, and I showed up and I cooked it and I served it. It was really fun. But so layer 1, cilantro lime whole grain. I'm not great at recipes because I just throw things in, so it's a very free form recipe. So whole grain, that could mean anything like kamut, quinoa, brown rice, millet. Bob's Red Mills, our local grains provider, has a whole new grains discovery line that brings in all the ancient grains from our past. So going a little beyond quinoa. Has anyone cooked with any of these ancient grains?
Quinoa.
Quinoa.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
Teff? Okay. I haven't cooked with anyone besides quinoa, so. And even kamut, you can pop like popcorn. So that's the same. Amaranth. So any of those can work as the layer one of this bowl. And then once you cook it, who uses chicken broth or vegetable broth to cook their grains? Okay, it's a really common thing. I didn't add it here because it just seems to add a lot of sodium and flavor that can kind of disappear at the end of the recipe when all the other layers are going to have a bunch of flavor. So I would urge you, if you do that, to when you go home and immediately try to cook this, to not add that chicken broth and test it out. So the flavor for this is coming from the lime and chopped cilantro. So what is normal eating? The last slide I had highlighted bolded whole grains. So this is in a piece of that handout. It is being able to choose foods you like and eat it and truly get enough of it. Not just stop eating because you think you should. So that leads me to the first eating style, professional dieter. So, and I highlighted whole grains because whole grains in general are a big dieting focus, with the whole Atkins thing first, and it being just a whole food group that a lot of diets ask us to avoid. So professional dieters tend to be experts in dieting tricks. What are some dieting tricks? I'll start with one. No eating past 7:30. What are some other dieting tricks or tips?
Eating protein in the morning.
Eating protein in the morning.
Drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
Drink a ton of water. So, gotta fill up your stomach. What are some other ones?
Brushing your teeth at 8 o'clock and not eating after that.
Yes, brushing your teeth early.
Eat slow and chew your food.
Yes, eat slow, chew your food. Count calories, keep a food diary, shop the perimeter of the grocery store, diet sodas. They're endless. We've all followed them. And I guess I should say, as I go into the different eating styles, none of these are bad or good. There's pros and cons to all of them. We can probably find our own tendencies in all of them too. It's just fun to delve in and be aware of all the little quirks that we have. So the professional dieter also tends to only focus on weight loss and not total health. So when they think of exercise, it's for the purpose of weight loss and not necessarily, oh, I felt so good after running or swimming today. It's I better have lost 1 pound tomorrow morning when I weigh myself. And there's also this Last Supper that occurs. Who's had a Last Supper before the diet occurs?
Many times.
This is the last time I'm going to be able to eat this food, so I'm going to eat it all. As much of it as I can. And so, if there's anything necessarily wrong with that. So then you go into this really restrictive time with a non-sustainable diet, usually, and then you end up backlashing again at some point, having multiple Last Suppers before the next diet. I brought this book because diet books are getting a little trickier. So this is one that was gifted to me. Cook Yourself Thin, which it has a lot of beautiful recipes in here. I mean, really nice stuff. And it even goes in to say this is not a dieting book. This is not the next fad. These are just ways to change, make your craving foods skinnier. But then there's a couple quirks in it that step away from that normal eating pattern or intuitive eating pattern. And one of them is it gives you a calorie amount. It says multiply your weight by 10, and that's about how many calories you need in a day. Or the weight that you want to be, and multiply that by 10. So if you want to be 120 pounds, that's 1,200 calories in a day. And sometimes that is just not enough. And that's not even health promoting. I would never recommend that to somebody. So there's some things to watch out for in books like this, even simple cookbooks. They even quote a diet, they don't quote, but they say, dietitians and nutritionists agree that a low-fat diet is good for slimming down. I would never really promote a low-fat diet either. So just to tune into those diet books, if you do have them, some of the claims they make. So pros of a professional dieter are they do help you tune into food. You do become more aware of your surroundings, and by keeping a journal, you can find out some of your eating quirks, but it can end up being detrimental to your overall health in the long run. Layer 2. This is the coconut curry black beans with tomatoes layer. So what's in this is you chop up your onions and your garlic and crushed ginger and saute it with oil and curry powder. And turn that into a sludge. Add your black beans, diced tomatoes, and a little coconut milk. And then your black beans, and just simmer it for 10 minutes, and boom, done. Got your coconut black beans. So I highlighted here canned beans. Tend to be a little high in sodium. Truett Brothers, which is our local brand, has a very low sodium content as far as canned beans go, so they're a great option. A lot of the new Simple Truth brand at Fred Meyer does a really good job too. But if you drain and rinse canned beans, Bush's brand did a study. It reduces the sodium by 40%. So that's something to keep in mind too. That's huge. Diced tomatoes you can buy with no salt added. And with any product, look for, if salt is a concern for you, look for no salt added as opposed to reduced sodium. An example of that would be deli meat. A lot of packages will say reduced sodium. And that means for 2 ounces, it goes from 690 milligrams to 440 milligrams. And 2 ounces is like 3 slices of their thin slice of meat. So something to watch out for there. And coconut milk. Recommend going the full force coconut milk, not the reduced fat. We're not using too much in this recipe. It goes 2 cans of black beans, 1 can diced tomatoes, and like a half a can of coconut milk or so. And it really gives it that satisfying flavor. So what is normal eating? Being able to give some thought to your food selection so you get nutritious food, but not being so wary and restrictive that you miss out on enjoyable food. So that ties into that coconut milk. It's nice to get the reduced fat, but sometimes it's just not as satisfying as getting the whole version, and we'll end up using a lot more and just not really being happy with it. So that leads us into the careful eater. So this person is not on this is what this says. It says not on a diet, but ... They definitely closely monitor their food. These are the people that seem to have a perfect diet. They're the fitness-oriented and can often be the food police. They're the ones that are touting what they're eating and kind of looking down upon others eating, maybe. Not always. Very fitness-oriented. Again, kind of for the weight loss side. And this is a great place to be, but it can also be a little detrimental to your relationship with food, because you're very, very well regimented, rather than just kind of going with the flow with eating and rolling with the punches. If you don't get to eat a lot one day, you get to eat a lot another. Layer 3. Greens, another color, and protein bites. Sounds appetizing. It sounds better when you plug that in with what you're actually filling. So when we made it, it was kale, red bell pepper, and chicken or tofu. All you do is throw everything in the saute pan, put a little of your chili powder paprika mix on top, and call it a day. And cook it with oil and vinegar, or just vinegar, or white wine. However you please. So it makes it, there's no salt added here, but it has a lot of flavor.
What kind of oil do you recommend using?
Good question. You can cook with olive oil. Olive oil is probably better as a finishing oil. It doesn't have a really high heat threshold. But any liquid oil is good. Canola, grapeseed, vegetable oil. They're all good options. Canola has the omega-3s in it, but it's also, I believe, a GMO product, so it's kind of just whatever you like to use.
GMO is what?
GMOs are genetically modified organisms. It's different than crossbreeding. So a lot of our food is just natural, maybe not natural selection, but we crossbreed plants like we've been doing for thousands of years. But genetically modified foods, we use a virus to implant certain pieces of DNA into the plant, so they either they're stronger or they have built-in Roundup.
Resistance to Roundup, yeah. Resistance.
Yes, there's a resistant. There's only a couple crops that I'm aware of that are genetically modified. It's corn, soybeans, cotton, sugar beets, which is big, Hawaiian papaya. I believe there's one more.
And are you making a judgment about that one way or the other, or are you just acknowledging that that's...
No, just the awareness is good, so people can make their own decision what they like to do.
Do you have an opinion about it? Or an expert?
Right.
Personal choice.
We just don't know. We have no research that shows any effect at this point.
Good answer.
So what is normal eating? It is leaving some cookies on the plate because you know you can have some again tomorrow, or it's eating more now because they taste so wonderful. So this leads us to the refuse not, waste not type of eater. This person is vulnerable to the presence of food. So if I have out on my desk a bowl of M&Ms, and every time people walk by, they're just like, ooh, yes, every time. Or if you're at a work meeting and there's food in the middle of the table, even if you're not hungry, you ate your lunch purposely so you wouldn't be stomach growling in this meeting. But there's food there. There's fruit, and there's cookies, and there's vegetable dip with great ranch dressing, and you just eat that because it's there. It's free. Why would you pass that up? The Clean Plate Club falls under this. I think most of us grew up hearing, don't leave food on your plate, and parents wanting their kids to eat, to grow, too. So that comes from as well.
There are starving kids places.
There are.
It's not a myth?
So pros and cons of this are just you can add up a lot of food that you never really wanted to eat in the first place. You're just eating it because it's there, and so that can lead to negative health effects when you weren't really intending for it. The unconscious eater is the person who's kind of into the refuse not waste. It's the eating and working, the eating and watching TV, the eating and reading a book, go on Facebook, whatever. And then you go, oh, it's all gone. Where'd this whole box of crackers go? So the pros and cons of this, of course, are you again don't really know how much you're eating, and you didn't intend to eat all of that. This is a YouTube link. It's just a woman speaking about intuitive eating, but she talks about you go to the freezer for some ice cream. You just want one spoonful. You don't want to have a bowl. You don't want to messy the dishes. You just want one scoop. So you have your one scoop of ice cream. Well, but then it's a little uneven, so I'm just going to have another bite. Well, you gotta even out the other side now, and there's one chocolate chip that's sticking up, so I have to go have another spoonful, and then you have a whole another layer to clear, make it flat, nice. So that, I think it's just one of those maybe you should have just gotten a bowl instances, or just release yourself from that tendency. Just have one bite and be okay with that. So then this can lead us into an emotional eater and eating unconsciously to potentially avoid feeling an emotion, or you don't want to clean the house, so you're going to eat instead, or anything along those lines. So the fourth layer of the one bowl to rule them all is the tahini garlic lime sauce. And this one I do have amounts. It's a little more important to follow amounts on this one, but you can add more plain yogurt, low-fat plain yogurt if you want it more runny, or leave some out if you want it thicker. So tahini paste is ground sesame seeds. It's an ingredient in hummus. More lime juice, and some coriander and cumin in this. Has anyone made homemade sauce before? Okay. So you can make this in bulk and then put it on everything. This is very low sodium, but there's a lot of flavor again from the coriander and cumin. This was the Thrive Bowl when we debuted it at our cafeteria. And then we topped it with fresh avocado. You could also do diced pineapple. You can put diced peaches on it, blueberries. It doesn't matter. It's open to anything.
Was it well received?
Yes, it was.
Are you
definitely.
still serving it?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Anything with avocado is so well.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for $5.50. Yeah, it did really well. We sold about 60 of them, which is pretty high for that station. Insider details. And so that's mainly what I have. This is our produce stand at our cafeteria that we have every other Friday in the summertime. Any questions about eating styles or any seasonal produce?
So I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
One is I was interested in what the percentage of organic produce is in the cafeteria, and then secondly, if you could just clarify the term that you used a couple of times. You said retail food, so it's not being served to patients, meaning it's in the cafeteria and employees and people visiting patients in the hospital go to the cafeteria and purchase their lunch or whatever meal there.
Yes, yeah. So retail, the second question he asked was, well, what does retail mean? And that's just our cafe area, our espresso carts, and catering. So that's hitting our employees and our members when they come visit the cafeteria. So not as much patient volume, although a lot of the products that we use do overlap, but the patient menu does not change as much as retail. And really, patient food is a whole different ball game. So where on the retail side, we're pushing the whole grains and we're pushing fiber and these health promoting foods for the general healthful population. It's not necessarily what's best for patients. Part of the national initiative that we just signed on to, that I can explain in a little bit, is going to have us post calories on the patient menu. And it's kind of, we feel conflicted about that, because when people are in the hospital and they're really sick, they're not really eating. And so that's a concern for me, that they're going to become malnourished, especially if they just had a surgery or they don't have properly functioning intestines. We want them to eat as much as they can and get all the nutrition possible. And sometimes that means from refined grains, because it's easier to digest. So it's a completely different world when it comes to health. And your other question was about organic produce. I don't have actual numbers on if we're tracking organic, but we do track how much we buy from local producers. And I don't have the number for that, but it's probably in the 20%, I think. The produce stand would probably bump up that number a little bit. The first thing decided to focus on was getting more fruits and vegetables in our cafeteria at all. When I first started, it was very meat heavy, very meat, potato, vegetable kind of plate. And now we try to have a vegetarian entree every day alongside a meat entree. Always have tofu on the saute line. Just have all the variety there. But we're lucky to have a lot of local produce to choose from. So we're not at a shortage of opportunities to get it.
And the potato doesn't count as a vegetable, it counts as a carbohydrate intake, grain or bread.
Yeah. Corn and peas as well. Count as carbs.
What about smoothies?
Smoothies?
Like
What
dairy,
about them?
dairy smoothies, do you offer them in the cafeteria?
We don't. We discussed
For
it,
breakfast?
but not at this point. We don't have enough blenders to make smoothies. We've talked about it, having a make your own smoothie bar, or order what you want in it and then they can blend it up. But just the logistics of washing out the blender each time will take some planning. Great idea though. Yeah.
Molly, do you work at all with town hall catering?
No.
Do you have
no.
plans to do that?
It's definitely open. Brenda's amazing, so
Yeah.
and we work together already. But
Yeah, because I think a lot of us here, we work with that department for catering, but you specifically have to ask for like healthy choices. Or, we've done
Right.
an event with that, but was just curious because I think it's a big need.
it is, yeah. So actually, that's a good leeway or transition.
Why don't you do a food cart here?
Why?
Yeah, I know, I'm serious. Why don't you do the food carts are like wildly
That would
popular.
be fun. Having just a bowl food cart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So I'll talk about some of the national initiatives we're working on. Healthy Picks is internal. It started about 7 years ago, and it's just now really taking off because we also signed on with the Partnership for a Healthy America, which is an offshoot of the Let's Move campaign by Michelle Obama. This provided us with much more specific nutrition criteria. So there's nutrition criteria for a side dish, nutrition criteria for an entree, so 2 or 3 sides on a plate, and then nutrition criteria for the whole wellness meal, which is the entree, fruit, and milk on the side, or steamed vegetables if that's not already in there. So it's really specific, and it really forces us to tune in to every single ingredient that we purchase in the cafeteria, for the cafeteria. We're getting, and it provides accountability, so we're going to be audited about these criteria and making sure that 40% of what we do serve, patient food and retail, do meet these healthy criteria. Next year it'll be 50%, and the year after that it'll be 60%. So you'll probably see a lot of changes coming. And some of those ingredients that never, ever would meet nutrition criteria in any sense, like diced ham and donuts, they'll probably be gone. But replaced with delicious, delicious food. So other initiatives that we've signed on to are Healthy Hospitals Initiative, and that's the one that focuses on catering. And so those changes are all coming through as well. So as we get all of our nutrition information into the system, we'll take those good, healthy recipes and apply them to the catering menu. Make it a little easier, a little more front focus rather than it being the side option. So,
Molly, is this at both hospitals or just the west side?
both.
Both.
Yeah. So West Side, we're just building in with everything. And kind of, it's a smaller production, so I'm using it to kind of actually doing West Side first and getting it, so we never have to take anything away. We're just making it healthy right off the bat. It's a great opportunity to do that. And then taking what we learn over there, and it's much easier to implement than over at Sunnyside. And easier to market that way as well, since it's all streamlined.
A lot of people mess up when it comes to desserts, and I noticed there was no.
Yeah, I didn't see any desserts on there either. Nor did I see pizza.
Healthy options for desserts. It's a good topic. I mean, or decision to make in the cafeteria to what are you offering? other
Right.
than donuts.
Right. We do have a bunch of desserts to choose from. We have little chocolate squares or slices of pie. What the criteria have begun to focus on is that gets into being the food police. We don't want to take the dessert away. So we're just giving appropriate sizes. And then I'm tuning in and making sure that the ingredient list is appropriate as well. I mean, I'd rather have a full butter pastry that's yay big rather than a larger slice of pie that's supposed to be less calories, but it has this ingredient list that drops to the floor. So you pick and choose the quality that is going to fit our needs.
But fresh fruit sometimes is a good dessert too.
Absolutely.
Especially in the season.
Yes. Definitely. And that's why it's on top of the Thrive Bowl, the one bowl to rule them all. You can put diced peaches or diced pineapple to give that sweet kick to all those curry and cumin and coriander flavors that are in the bowl. Make it a nice, well-rounded flavor profile. More satisfying. So the nutrition facts on that bowl, if you make it just like it was and you use about 3/4 cup rice and 3/4 cups of beans and a bunch of vegetables, little fruit on top, and about 3 ounces of meat or 4 ounces of tofu, it comes out to about 650 calories.
Wow.
And about 350 milligrams of sodium. So very appropriate for sodium content. Very low saturated fat because there's no cheese. And you won't even miss the cheese. Or you could add feta on top or goat cheese or something. And a really filling, satisfying meal with probably over 11 grams of fiber.
Oh, wow.
Is there any, I like to goof around in the kitchen, my daughter can attest to that, and for the life of me, I cannot make tofu taste anything like a cardboard. Is there something that you can do to it? We try to saute it, or, I mean, it just doesn't taste like anything.
Right.
And I've had tofu that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what.
At restaurants, it's often deep fried, which isn't the worst thing because it doesn't come with any natural fat, whereas meat does tend to have some natural fat in it. But I don't know if I've mastered tofu either, personally, but I know you can drain it first, you can press it, and dry it out with some paper towels or towels, and then it'll soak up marinades better. Or you can just kind of put sauce right on top of it and bake it after draining it. Does anyone else have any tofu suggestions?
See me later. I have a whole
Yeah, okay.
You-
That's what
you had
Chef
a-
Greg is for.
You had a suggestion?
Yeah, I often marinate my tofu in water, some sort of vinegar, and soy sauce or Bragg's amino acids for about, I don't know, 15 minutes. And it eventually soaks it quickly.
And you bake it or just cook it in?
Yeah, bake it or put it in stir fry.
And so that'll change the nutrition a little bit because soy sauce is loaded with sodium, and it also has wheat. So that'll turn the gluten-free bowl and not the gluten-free bowl with it has wheat. And then vinegar is a great option. Yeah.
The other key is if you're new to eating tofu, what I found when I serve people who've never had it, if I get them the extra firm and squish the water out, they like it. They don't even know that it's tofu.
That's my
Right.
favorite.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Can you talk about reduced fat cheese versus regular cheese? Is there a huge difference?
There's not a huge difference. Part of the healthy pick criteria is that only reduced fat cheese counts as part of as a healthy pick, best or good option. It reduces the saturated fat content by 1 gram or 2, which is good. The sodium stays about the same. It doesn't quite melt as easy, but because it's not as fatty, the fat is what gives it that nice melt. But if you like it, then go for it, because it is less saturated fat, which is why we tend to go towards low-fat dairy.
More questions? More comments? More ideas? More great recipes? Any ideas?
I guess
Is
I'll
there
throw. Oh,
plan to like educate our member population about food, like some health education or something, or a membership in general.
Are there
Other than
venues
the
for that?
cafeteria. The cafeteria is a great venue, but then other
Yeah.
than that, day to day, what they
So, in order to get a one-on-one consultation with a dietitian, you have to have another diagnosis. It can't just be weight management. It has to be diabetes or cardiovascular disease. But we do have group classes that people can attend that are free for members. And then we also have health coaches, which are awesome. So a lot of people know general nutrition information, but it's the doing it that's really challenging. And you don't always know why you're not doing it. You're like, you're supposed to eat fruits and vegetables and whole grains, but how do I do that? So they're the ones that help you with that behavior change, and they're very motivational and help you break down those barriers that hold you back from doing exactly what you want to be doing. So that's a good option for employees or members alike. Other than that, I've been hosting booths at the Beaverton Farmers Market about every other Saturday, kind of as Westside promotion, but also as part of the Market Sprouts activities. So we do nutrition education activities with kids. So there's a lot of venues like that.
Saturday.
Yeah, on the 20th I'll be there, maybe in Hillsborough. So we do a lot. Kaiser's very good at reaching out to the community for nutrition education where it makes sense.
In schools, do you do anything in schools?
Not that I know
Besides
of. I think there's some other people that focus on schools or monitoring.
Yeah, I think health works,
Oh.
marketing and stuff.
And I'll just end with, unless there's more questions, but I keep mentioning sodium. And I didn't really explain why I keep mentioning that. It's definitely a hot topic lately. The USDA guidelines came out with if you're 50 and older, African American, or with one of these other health issues like diabetes or heart disease, you should cut down your sodium to 1,500 milligrams, which is really low. The average American eats about 3,400 milligrams. But all in all, whatever beyond the actual recommendation, the reason why it's important is because sodium is tied to our fluid retention. So if you eat a lot of sodium, you're going to retain a lot of water. That increases our blood volume, and that makes it hard for our heart to pump that blood. And it's just really uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know if your fingers get puffy when you eat a lot of salt. Mine do. My rings don't fit right. But that just kind of adds a lot of stress to our bodies. So that's why I keep mentioning that. And since we eat salt in so many things in our diet, bread is naturally high in salt, and cheese is high in salt. It's nice to when we can leave it out of our own cooking to do it. So avoiding the chicken broth when we cook our grains and strategies of that sort.
So when we do add salt, is there a difference between table salt and sea salt? I've heard that sea salt has a lot less sodium in it. Is that...
They're exactly the same. Table salt comes from mines and sea salt comes from the ocean. The only difference is sea salt tends to be more coarse, and so by teaspoon to teaspoon, maybe the sea salt will have a couple milligrams less, just because there's more air in that measurement.
The sea salt has a lot of other minerals that table salt doesn't have.
Sometimes. But with all the food that we eat, we should probably get the minerals from that.
Trace minerals,
Yeah.
It makes it easier to metabolize for the body.
Ah, so maybe that's definitely possible. Maybe it's some pretty pink Himalayan salt or something.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because this is like the fifth one we've done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've been about what you drink, and pretty much the rest have been about diet and eating. And so we've been on this journey, and I think I'm trying to sort of encapsulate what you are suggesting. So you said something like, eat a wide variety, don't be afraid to put things in there that might be bad in moderation, and eat a lot of things, eat a lot if it's healthy. That's kind of what you said, right?
Eat until you're full. Eat what feels right.
And don't be
Listen
afraid
to
to
your
toss
body.
in some things that might not be so good,
Don't beat
but a
yourself
little
up.
bit,
Yeah.
because otherwise it won't taste good.
That is a beautiful summary. Yeah, and avoid that guilt if you do eat something that you know isn't right for you. So, thank you. So I did go through kind of more eating personalities that I gave a lot of maybe negative examples for, but what you have in your hand, the handout, that's the normal eating, intuitive eating mindset.
And you're going to email all that to us?
I can, yeah. I think the sheet is still going around, or the people writing their emails on.
And Dave is recording it, and we get that out.
The recipes will be online.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.